to apologize. We had to switch the date, so I apologize for that. I was sick the night before, which was not planned. So I really appreciate you guys adjusting your schedules again to do this. So this workshop, I am a strength-based behavioral consultant. So I go into homes and go into schools, and I work with teachers, I work with the children, I work with families to support them through social and emotional skills, behavior skills, even learning what best ways to teach the children that I'm working with and children as a whole. So this workshop is best teaching practices and also diverse learners. So if you need any diverse, I know in America we have to have diversity in our studies. So this can fall underneath the umbrella of diverse learners, because learning is diverse. Everybody learns differently, and we're gonna walk through what type of ways that children learn all through life. So you can be using this for high school students, you can be using this for young children, all the way through, even for us also. So let's dive in. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask them. That's what I'm here for. I don't really like to wait at the end because questions leave our brain. So please ask away if you have any questions. So let's think about learning. So this is something that we don't, a lot of times don't think about, is we kind of know what ways does our learning get in the way of things, right? So we can have a learning disability that gets in the way of learning, right? So being dyslexic, not being able to read very well, ADD, ADHD, so hyperactivity, overstimulating, and sensory needs that can be overwhelming for children, so they aren't able to focus. Other things that we don't take in consideration is boredom. Sometimes the children are bored, so their behaviors mimic that because they're not being challenged enough. They're not moving enough. That's another thing that learning, things that get in the way of learning is not moving enough, and not interested in a topic or even time. Time can be something that's very overwhelming for children, especially if they worry a lot, if they have anxiety. They can feel a lot of pressure on that time. So giving them that enough time frame to know that they can finish their work, it'll be less stressful for them. Ways that we do learn, and this is, we're going to dive really a lot more deeper into this, these two questions throughout the presentation. The visual and auditory, right? A lot of times we only use visual and auditory. We don't bring in movement. We don't bring in hands-on. You know, we don't bring in a lot of times we forget about movement. We forget about dancing, right? Doing little field trips or just bringing them outside and exploring. Using technology for our benefit of showing them different things all over the world, finding videos on, YouTube and showing them, this, we have tons of other things that are happening in the world. Having volunteers come in. So having nurses come in, having firefighters come in, having the mailman come in, showing them, you know, letting them experience what they're learning through hands-on, through the world around us, is majority of how they're going to remember that lesson that they really feel connected to. So what is the best environment to learn, right? The best environment to learn is the ones that provide you with the tools and opportunities to succeed. So when we are able to meet the needs of the children, meet the needs of the learning that they need to learn, and connecting with their children, that is the best learning environment for them. And I know that all of you work so hard to make sure that that is happening every day, is making sure that, do they know their goals that they need to do to be successful? How do we bring them up? How do we, it's all about the mindset of being able to, if they don't have that mindset, they're not going to be able to learn. So being able to bring in that unique personal objective to the children and show them that you are unique, you are always learning, that is how we can make the best learning environment. And as teachers, we have to think about the children. How do my children learn in my classroom right now, not 3 years ago, right? We take, sometimes, I know where I live, a lot of teachers take curriculum that they had 3 years ago. It's like, you don't have those children that you have in your classroom now. We have to always keep on changing the curriculum to, we can use the same topic. It's not a bad thing to use the same topic, right? They need to learn the same things. However, we might have to change the curriculum for those children that we have in our class. And when we start to learn who those children are, that's how they're going to learn best in the learning environment, because we're creating the best learning environment for them. And it's not an easy job, because we have 10, 15, 20, 30 children in our classrooms, even more, 100 kids. If you guys switch classes around, you have even more children. So learning what is the best way, that's how we're going to teach them. So all the ways children learn. So all the ways children learn is multiple intelligence. So, linguistics. So linguistics is language. So talking, using sign language is something that we could do in the classroom. I love using sign language with older children. So, they learn, we don't have to constantly talk over them, right? We can give them a sign to say, oh, I'm all done. Then I can walk over to them and say, oh, good, you're all done. Let's work on this, or can you explain to me this way? So they're not shouting out. It's a very calmer environment. It's a little bit more quieter when children are still working. And then this is another big one that I use. This one means me too. And so when a child, is talking and they're talking about, what they did over the weekend, and there's tons of other children saying, me too, I did it too, me too, right? We can use, right? We all know that, right? We can use the sign language of this, and it goes back and forth, and it says, that means me too. So rather than everybody screaming out, I did the same thing, it can be quiet and everybody can look with their eyes, and it just makes it a calmer environment. No, I'm not saying that we don't want our children to talk or anything like that, but it just keeps it a little bit more calmer environment, and you can move on a little bit quicker after those questions. Kinesthetics. So position and movement, moving their parts of their body, physical activity. and we're going to dive a lot more deeper into this one. But movement is a completely way of children to learn. If we don't have movement, they're not making connections in the brain. So if we're able to add movement into our curriculum and into the learning of for the children, they're going to start making connections in the brain and being able to remember the information more. Logical. So rules, thinking, and ideas. So, we have to set boundaries for these children so they know that what is their expectations, right? If children don't know their expectations, they feel lost. They feel that they can't connect with you because everything is changing constantly around them. So when we set up the rules of guiding, I don't really like to say rules, guidance, the guiding them, right? We're guiding them as teachers, we're guiding them. So being able to set the boundaries of this is what we need to do for the today, right? And so they know coming in, okay, this is my routine. This is what I need to do. They feel more comfortable and they feel more safe with you because they know what the expectations are. So it's not, all over the place. So interpersonal is relating to relationships or communication between people and groups. So interpersonal is being able to join a group that they are able to connect with. They're able to learn how to communicate with their fellow classmates. And that is really important. And that's why group work is really important in all ages, preschool age, kindergarten age, up until high school. It's really important, especially at that preschool age. We have to make sure that we're teaching them how to work in a group. So it takes a lot longer to do. However, we can do that through play. We can do that through imagination of having them being able to sit down and say, what are your thoughts on playing, house? What's your thoughts on playing, cars or whatever they're playing, or soccer? Soccer is a great game to play with working as a team, right? You have to know where the goalie is. You have to know where, who's protecting the goal, who's shooting the goal, getting them into, little fun games outside of all ages can really help them learn how to work as a team. And then we have to know interpersonal is a person who is aware of how they affect themselves in the world, right? So they are learning to be aware of this world and who are they? Who are they going to be in this world and the effects on this world? And we can guide them to show them who they are and how they bring to this world, because we don't tell them enough that they're here for a reason. They're here on this earth for a reason, and what are we here? We're here to guide them, to support them. Musical. So music comes first, actually, makes connections in the brain. I don't particularly like to use this example, but it really kind of hits home. When somebody has a stroke and they lose the ability to talk, a lot of times they can start singing. They remember songs because it's a different part of the brain, and music is such a big connection in the brain that's why we bring in, poetry, bringing in songs from different places in the world, and, sing, constantly sing songs with them, make up songs with, you know, we sing a song, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And they're able to remember that because it's a song. So when we teach that to young children, they start to know that. They start to grow from that. And because it makes, you know, it actually goes into the nervous system. Because what are we doing while we're listening to music? We're dancing. We're feeling that, right? We're doing movement with music. So if we can add music into, you know, the solar system that we're learning, or the body parts of, you know, of what our body parts are, where the body parts are, the elbow, the wrist, the hands. Being able to look into poetry is really important, because poetry is a song, but just in a different way. And then visual is pictures and then words underneath it. So if children are having a hard time with following a schedule, have a picture and have words right next to it, so they can see, oh, this is the picture that I have to do, and now this is the word that connects with the picture. So having visuals of, you know, labeling, things like that can really help them understand what's going on too. Um, um, naturalistic, right? Real life experiences, nature, bringing them out in nature, having them do a scavenger hunt. You know, I don't know if you guys have different kind of weather. I know where I live, the weather constantly changes. I'm not sure. I think, if I'm correct, that it doesn't change too much, right? Changes a little
Yeah,
bit.
exactly. Ours doesn't change too much.
Doesn't change too
Yeah.
much. But there are changes. So having them go outside and kind of seeing the little changes that are happening. Where I live, it changes constantly. I have all 4 seasons. So, you know, them being able to see the world changing is something that we can bring them out into. Um, but just having them explore, you know, having them explore animals outside that are something. I did a whole curriculum on ants, because my kids were interested in ants. I learned everything about ants, and we were able to bring that into the classroom and learn about ants, which was really cool. I learned a lot of stuff about ants too. You know, so like bringing that type of stuff, like bringing in the real world things into the classroom, they start to make connections even more, especially, you know, where you're living, making those connections. Does anybody have any questions about multiple intelligence? Okay, awesome. Okay, so learning styles. So this is ways that we all learn. So we always, a lot of schools only really focus on visual and auditory. So visual is print, so, you know, reading, writing, pictures of things. Auditory is listening, right? Lectures, exactly what I'm doing right now. If we were in person, I'd be having you guys move and doing tons of different things. You know, auditory, listening, verbal, right? Which is great things that they need to learn, right? They need to learn how to talk. They need to learn how to listen. They need to learn, you know, how to express themselves and be able to write and read and all those beautiful things. The thing is that we forget that we have tactile kinesthetics. We don't use that enough, right? A lot of schools don't support it, actually. because it's a lot more work, because we have to think outside the box a lot more, right? So bringing in hands-on materials, it's a little bit easier when we have preschool children, right? Because they're learning through play. But when they get older, it's a lot harder to think, what can we bring on hands-on, right? How can we bring the whole body into it? Stretching, writing, I always remind people, always do tummy time. So tummy time is that the children are literally laying on the floor and working. The thing is, I always remind people is that tummy time is so important through all ages. Because when we have a strong core, and when we have strong, right, we have to hold ourselves up with our core. And then what else is happening? Our arms are getting stronger, our wrists are getting stronger, our hands are getting stronger, because our whole body is working to keep ourselves up. And when we are able to do that tummy time and do those and work these muscles, they're going to have better handwriting. They're going to have better stamina to write more, right? I know a lot of my children, in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, or how tired they are because they're not using this muscle anymore as much. So getting down is so important for any age. So crossing the midline is in the brain, and that brings in balance, that brings in making connections in the brain more. You can even simply, have, when you're reading a book to them, allow them to lay on the floor properly, because we always have those kids that are rolling around the carpet and like don't really know how to sit on the carpet nicely, right? So having them lay on that floor while you're reading a book, or while they're drawing a picture, or I always not really encourage them. We do want them to be sitting up nicely when they're writing, but having clipboards, or having like a hard book. I used to have big hard books in the classroom, so they're able to take pieces of paper and sit on the floor, and even lay on the floor. So giving them different opportunities to go in the classroom and Yep.
And your middle section suspended,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that's exactly what a plank is. Or you could do a high plank and you put your hand on the floor and your whole body's up above the floor. Those are great ways to get them to, again, get that core ready, get the whole body ready. Yoga is another great way of, again, having a yoga break too. It gets them moving and getting them, again, getting that balance, getting that movement, but in a slow and calm way. Playing Simon Says. Does everybody know that game, Simon Says? So it's kind of like I Spy, but we do different body parts. So Simon Says, touch your nose, and all the kids have to do it. Simon Says, touch your head, and all the kids have to do it. And then you say, up, touch your elbow. And then they touch their elbow, but they didn't say Simon Says, so you're out. But I usually don't kick the kids out. It's just a funny joke. Oh, you got caught. You didn't do it. You didn't listen to Simon Says. Another game I like to play is copycat. So you hit your legs and you just go copycat, copycat, name of the game. Whatever Michelle does, we'll do the same. And it just, again, it's just another way of moving their body. Like, let's do 10 jumping jacks. Okay, 1, 2. And then you can kind of go around and have the kids do it too. And it's fun and it's interactive and it just gets them moving. It's a good movement break. Yes, Eugene. I see your hand raised. Did you mean to raise your hand?
Yeah, Michelle. Michelle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I was listening. Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to find out these interesting stuff you're talking about. At what age range is it so ideal to practice these things?
All of it, all ages,
Okay.
all ages, especially starting young, right? Bringing in
Yeah.
hands-on movement and using the whole body throughout the day is really important. And we're actually going to go over different movements that we can go into the class, we can bring into the classroom to make the kids calmer and make the kids being able to focus more. I'm not sure what slide that one's in, but I think it's soon. And that's going to explain a lot more to it. But yes, all this learning styles should be across the board for all children, for any age. Even in high school, we need to start bringing this in more. The visual and audio is great and we all need that, right? But when we bring in the kinesthetics, the tactile kinesthetics. So tactile means touch, and then kinesthetics means movement. So when we bring all of that in, every single one of these 3 big parts, that's how children are going to start remembering, right? We can't always do the kinesthetics and tactile for every type of thing that we're doing, right? Math, that's really hard to do, right? When they get a little bit older, it is more abstract, for math. But for younger kids for math, we can bring in, different things. We can bring in hands-on. So I have 3 chapsticks. Can you find me the number 3? What's the symbol for 3? Up 3 chapsticks. Up, we have 3 chapsticks, right? So that's how we can bring it in for younger children so they can visualize what math is. I think math is a really big concept for young children to really see. So when we bring in, visuals of, you can even do it with rocks, find 50 things of rocks and have up, what's one symbol? 1 equals 1 rock. Up, what's 2? Up, let's find 2 rocks. 2 rocks so they can visually touch it for younger children. And then when they get older, they can actually picture what 10 is in their mind because they had the visuals. They had to be able to touch it previously. And then for writing, sandpaper letters is really great for tactile for young children, even 1st grade, even 2nd grade, if they're struggling with writing and reading. If you have sandpaper or even do it with sand, you can put glue on it, put glue on a piece of paper or hard board and put sand as the alphabet. I wish I had them. I don't know. Let me see if I have it. Right here. So this is a raised alphabet. So this is sand. This is sandpaper. So they can actually feel the A with their hand. And so this will make them start to remember more in their mind. But you can make these, just get hard paper and put sand on it. And then possibly do maybe a like clear nail polish so it doesn't get off. But you can make these and they can start to feel the texture of the A, or, things like that. And it starts to go into their brain more. And then when they start to write, they already have that motion because it's already in their brain. It's really fascinating. I learned this with Montessori training. And I also highly recommend looking up some different ways that Montessori has brought into this. Does that help a little bit? Did that answer your question? And we can always go through this again, and I can have, if you guys have specific questions about certain ages, we can go through this and I can support you on different ways to bring that into the classroom. And kind of like, if you tell me the theme of what you guys are doing, I can help you make it more of a kinesthetics. More than happy to do that. Do you have any more questions before we move on? No. Okay. Oh yeah, Eugene.
Before we move on, I'm getting lots of feedback from some of our participants,
Yeah,
positive feedbacks, and they would like to know more about you. So for those of you who joined later on, this is Michelle Aloisio from the United States. She has a master's in education and a certified behavioral consultant and life coach. And she's also the founder of Sunshine Through Motion. She's on social media. Do well and follow her, and you'll be learning every single time she posts something there. So yes, that's for those who just joined. Michelle, you can go on. I think everything has been.
Thank you. And I have everything at the end also, so you'll get to see all my stuff too. So.
Okay, and those who cannot speak for one reason or the other, you can type in your questions, send them as chats.
Please do, and then Eugene can let me know because I don't check.
Yes, it's very, very important to learn much more. So okay, please go ahead.
Thank you for sharing. Okay. So, sharpen skills and memories. So be able to figure out how to support children through this time is good visuals will reform audio presentations, right? So when we have really good visuals, the audio, and when we are lecturing, it will help them start to remember what they're listening to. Some children will need additional wait time, think time, talk time to process information. So I know I have a hard time when there's a lot of information at once, and I have to have time to think and process it. So for children, we always have those children in the classroom that will raise their hand immediately, right? They know exactly what the answer is going to be. I know, ask me, right? And then we have other children that take a lot longer to think about their answer and process what they just heard. We have to make sure that we're giving them that wait time, because a lot of times it can be really overwhelming for them. So for them, they have to think about it. So we have to be more patient sometimes to give them that time to think, because they usually know that answer. We don't give them enough time to give them that thought process. It's just, it's not that we try to do it meanly. It's just we're usually on a time schedule, right? And sometimes these children take a long time to think. But always try to, we always have that one kid that always raises their hand in the classroom, right? We can probably think of that child that's always ready to say something. But trying to give those other children that have a little bit more time waiting. Providing manipulatives and models in instructions. So allow for touching the materials. Touch is essential for some children. For some children to understand the information is through touch. So if you have materials that we're able to bring in or create through touch, it's really helpful. Sensory skills, bringing in feeling, so tactile, taste, if we're learning about a different culture, if we're learning about different things, see if you can taste the food, see if you can, I know allergies are around and things like that, so you have to know your students. But bringing in taste, bringing in smell. Smell is one of the fastest ways to connect to a place. Touch obviously brings in sound, so bringing in different sounds, and seeing, right? Seeing is always supportive. Provide talking breaks to help with processing. Turn and talk with their fellow classmates is really important. Yes, will they get off tangent? Yes, they usually do. But for the most part, that's really good socially too. And they're learning how to process the materials that they're learning. And then remember to teach a lesson with each learning style and module in mind. And then having novelty and color in your curriculum. So being able to bring in those more colors, those more, more triggers in the brain when we have certain colors, which is just really cool to think about. And at the end of the day, children do not care about our schedule, to be honest. They don't care about our schedule. They just want to know what's happening next and focus on what they need to do right now in the present moment. Because they don't need to worry about what's coming next. They just need to worry about what's going on right now. Okay, so movement and curriculum. So movement and curriculum is so important. Movement makes connections in the brain. So when we bring in movement into the brain, into the curriculum, they are able to they're able to be calmer, they're able to be connecting more. So oscillation. So children that are going up and down. So up and down movement is jumping, right? Is a learning. So we don't particularly want them if we're going to be going on a very, like if they're going to go line up, we don't want them to be jumping. We want them to be maybe tiptoeing or moving slowly, because when they jump, they're getting alerted and then they get silly, right? They get really silly. They're ready to like go. So we have to be really conscious about up and down. So I don't know if you guys have swings there, but swinging is really important for children that need that up and down motion. Swinging is actually very calming for the children to calm their bodies down. Rotating, spinning around and rolling is alerting. So if we're able to have a, having them doing little break dances on the ground and having them spin around on the floor, they're in control of that because they have to actually push their body to do that. When they're standing up and spinning, they can spin really, really, really fast, right? And their brain kind of goes crazy. So if a child needs to spin, I would teach them to spin one way for 10 seconds and then spin the other way for another 10 seconds. So their brain isn't going in one direction, it's going in the opposite direction. So they're able to kind of calm down a little bit faster. Because, kids actually, it's supposed to calm them down, but they do it too much, so it doesn't work, if if that makes sense. So we have to be the ones that are teaching them how to make that a positive thing rather than a negative thing. Linear, so walking back and forth. This is something that I know I do a lot when I'm upset and I need to calm my body down. I walk back and forth. So I used to put tape in my classroom, just simple tape. And if a child needs to calm down, they can walk on that linear line. So they're able to calm their bodies down. Again, we have to teach them this, right? If they're upset, can you go walk the line? And that's it, they're able to calm their bodies down. And that's a great technique for them to use when they get older and when they feel that body movement that they need to move, they can start to walk. Even if they're walking around the classroom and the borders, right? That's linear. Have them touch the wall and have them just continue to walk back and forth, touching the wall. That's another great way for them to start calming their bodies down. Invert. So invert is upside down. So when children, I see a lot of children at like the rug doing downward dog. So downward dog, it's a yoga move. Does everybody know what downward dog is? They have their hands on the ground and they have their feet on the ground and they have their head hanging down. That's getting their head below their feet. That is actually extremely calming. So if children do that at circle time, or just randomly do. So when you see that, don't stop it. But if it's not in a safe place for them to do it, if they've toppled over and hit somebody, right, we want to remove them from the area, but encourage that movement. A lot of times we see children falling off their chair. And that's usually when they're trying to calm their body down and being able to get their feet again below their head. I also do, if they're sitting in a chair, putting their head between their legs is another way to calm their bodies down. It's basically getting them to, it is calming. I do it all the time when I'm feeling upset. Crashing. So crashing is exactly what it sounds like, right? A child, especially younger children that are building blocks, right? And they crash into them and they destroy someone else's beautiful work, right? But they need to feel that pressure on their bodies. Or when a child comes and gives you that running hug and they just need that big squeeze, right? They need that pressure on their bodies to calm their bodies down. When I used to work with preschoolers and toddlers, I would have the children run back and forth between my co-teacher and I to give them big hugs. No, it was actually crashing into our bodies and giving them that tight squeeze and then running back and forth to get that motion out too. Having them, it's a great way of, a lot of children sometimes need that big bear hug, right? So if you see a child that's having a hard time saying, do you need a squeeze? You might need a squeeze. Let's squeeze. Let's give you guys a squeeze. And even touching their arms, we always ask for permission, but, touching their arms and having them do it, teaching them how to squeeze their own arms, even though it's not the same by someone else doing it. But if they are giving themselves a really hard hug, or even having, sand, you can put sand in like a, make a, sometimes people do rice too. It goes around the neck and it's just something that's pressured on their shoulders. It's kind of like it's kind of like a heavy vest, but you can use rice, you can use sand, and it just gives them that pressure on their shoulders that could calm their bodies down. Or you can even put it in their lap and put it nice and hard on their bodies. That's another really good way of keeping that pressure on them. But they can add that to it. Heavy work. Heavy work is, out of all these movements, is the most calming and most effective way to calm down a child's body. So heavy work is pulling, pushing, and lifting. So when they are feeling this big emotions, using, this is great for bringing in yoga. This is the planks that I was talking about earlier. That's heavy work. Pulling something. So if you have a wagon, if you have anything that they can start to pull, put rocks in it or whatever, put a child in the wagon, and they have to pull that child. So they're exerting their whole body and they're able to get that excess energy out. I used to have put bean bags, fill it with sand, and have them throw it into a bucket, right? So it's heavy. Or even having races and having this, having a big sand of bean bag, and you have to carry it from one side to the field to the other side, right? That's getting their bodies ready to use those big muscles. Wheelbarrow walks. So when a child is on the ground, you hold up their hands and they have to walk. They try to walk as far as they can, right? For older children, that's a great way to use heavy work. Also doing wall push-ups. So you push against the wall and they try to move the wall, right? That's another way of bringing heavy work into the classroom. Having a full basket of books. I like this one a lot. I usually bring a full basket of books and, oh, you have to go bring this to Mr. Eugene, go bring that to Mr. Eugene into the other, classroom, like give them heavy jobs to do. And they're like, okay, I get to leave the classroom. But technically we're working on heavy work with them to calm their bodies down. So giving them those techniques can really help them, right? Doing, silly workouts in the classroom for all the kids, doing, sit-ups, push-ups, doing all those things, they're exerting their bodies. So when bodies are out of control or sluggish, I didn't put that one, or sluggish, 5 minutes of movement gets you 25 to 30 minutes of focused energy. Not all children like to move, but we have to figure out which ones are best for the child. Usually heavy work works really good with children that are more physical. Yes, Eugene.
Yeah, Michelle, sorry to cut you in.
No, of course.
Okay, so we have a question from Christopher at the chat room. Now he says, since every child has a wait time, think time, talk time to process, what is the best time to assess or test the children?
So testing the children of like what they've learned.
So in this case, like we have individual differences. Mm-hmm. Every child has his or her own wait time, think time, talk time in order to process. So what is the best method of making sure you execute this, to bring everyone on board? How can you put this in practice so that it will benefit every child, irrespective of their individual differences?
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard because there's some children that think really fast, right? They're quick, they're ready to go. And then there's other children that need that time to think. So giving them, if they're learning a big concept, especially for the first time, I would give them that wait time and say, you know what, for the children that think really fast, and if they're able to, write down their thoughts. So give them that like 5 to 10 minutes of that time to say, okay, I want everybody to think about this process. So I want you to write down or draw a picture or whatever they can, I don't know how old they are, but giving them that time. Or also, I like to do small groups. So there's children that you can do small kind of groups together and you're learning the same thing, but it's giving them that opportunity to learn it and think about it first. You know, we're always going to have those kids that will raise their hand and know exactly what they are going to say, right? Because they're fast thinkers. We just have to give the other children that time, and we can always go up to them after, right? In a big group, it can be really overwhelming for some children to raise their hand and know the answer. So if you go around and kind of do it in small groups, sometimes, I know it's not capable always, especially when we have 20 kids in the classroom and it's just you. But they have more time to talk. So having that time to talk together as peers can actually be really beneficial for you as a teacher, because if they do have questions, a lot of times children feel more safer in smaller groups, right? They feel more open to talk to other people. So if you have, you know, second graders or first graders, I would have them in smaller groups sometimes, especially when they're learning something brand new. And you know, have them ask more questions, you know, saying, I'm going to put a timer on. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to think about it. And if you have any questions, please just let me know and I'll come to you and in those 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is. But know in that curriculum that you're going to be giving them that time to that day. So plan it in your curriculum that it might take a little bit longer than you might plan. Right? I know it breaks my heart because I know we're all teachers and we have this big curriculum that we have to constantly worry about. But at the end of the day, that curriculum will always be there, right? We can always teach it the next day. So if a child is having a hard time understanding the concept, please wait and trying to figure out how to explain it in a different way. I know for me with my learning disability, I am dyslexic. I grew up not learning how to read up until I was in high school. So up until like 17, 15, 16 years old, I didn't learn how to read until then. And I learned that I needed to ask more questions of how the teacher explained things. So being able to know how to change the way that we talk sometimes in a different way for these children to learn, that's on us to kind of figure out, okay, did I explain it right for this child individually, right? So if a child says, I don't understand it, we have to think outside the box on how to explain it in a different way for the child to understand. So having them have that opportunity to ask questions is really helpful. I hope that answered your question. I know it's a really hard concept to make sure all the children are learning, but sometimes we just have to slow down for them, for the other children. And again, it's all about knowing your children, right? It's all about, okay, I know this child has a hard time with math. I know I'm going to go up to him and make sure that they're understanding the process, and just kind of knowing. So I always talk about documentation. So documentation is so important because we can start to understand what triggers and what children need at that time. So a running record of learning styles, the friendships and behaviors. I know it's a lot to do, but it will help teachers in general. And then when they move up to another class, you can give them that written information so that teacher already knows this is how this child learns. So I'm going to make sure that every child is starting to know how to meet their meet their requirements. So how do we document behavior? How do we document learning styles, friendships? So this is more on behavior, but it always is what is happening before the behavior, while it's happening, who is involved in the behavior, reaction to the behavior, after the behavior, and find out the why from the behavior, right? Learning is behavior also. If children are unable to control their bodies and unable to learn social and emotional skills, they're not going to be able to learn. So we could be teaching them math, we could be teaching them language, we could be teaching them, science, but if the behavior comes into play, they're not going to learn anything. So communicate with the parents as best as you can. I know there's some parents that don't want to communicate. There's some parents that are over communicated, right? And then there's some parents that are in between. So finding out, how we can start to connect with these children and being able to find out the why behind the learning styles or the friendships or behaviors is just really important. And it just document it. It could be quick notes, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just something to keep in mind of, seeing the patterns of how they're learning really is helpful to make your curriculum. So this is another, yes, Eugene.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so Michael would want to find out if documentation is the same as individual education plan.
A little bit, yeah, I guess it is. But you can kind of do this for all children.
Okay.
And just like a quick notes. It doesn't have to be anything specific. It's like, okay, so this person worked really well with this person. So when I'm doing groups, I don't have to, really think about it. I can go back through my notes and saying, John and Sasha worked really well together. Let's put them together. And then kind of knowing this is especially for behaviors, is that you kind of start to see the pattern of what's happening. And that's going to help you be able to not have those behaviors as much because you're starting to see a pattern. John, I see John getting really kind of anxious right before math time. I don't know why I keep on saying about math, but math, right? I see that he's starting to get anxious about math every time at, 1 o'clock. I wonder if that's a pattern. Let me take some notes to see if math is giving him that anxiety, giving him that trouble. Okay, math is. So now I'm going to take a step back and start to talk to him about that and figure out why is math giving him such a harder time and his behavior changes when math comes up. And, figuring out that why. So when we start to see those patterns, we can start connecting with those children more. And that leads us into this type of, so we're going to kind of change a little bit. So when all those, the learning styles, the way children learn is really important. That's one of the things that are really important. However, the other thing that's even more important than teaching them is connecting with them. And one way we cannot learn, no one can learn unless they feel safe and wanted. Yes, Eugene. Do you have your hand raised or did you just forget to put it away?
No. It's for the previous question. Let me just lower it. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay, awesome. Okay. So yeah. So no one can learn unless they feel safe and wanted. That is a given. So this is Maslow's hierarchy of need. And so down here, right here, the physiological needs is, right, it's sleeping, it's drinking, it's food, it's rest, it's oxygen, it's activities, right? It's this is like our survival, right? We need to have this. So if we don't have this type of thing for our bodies, we're not going to be able to learn, right? If we're always hungry, if we're not getting enough sleep at night, learning is out the window. It's out the window because we're not getting the needs that is being met. And then if that's covered, great, awesome, that's what we want, right? And then it goes into safety needs, right? Physical environment safety, feeling loved, feeling, loved by friends and family. So we have to make sure that they are getting the safety needs and their physical needs are being met. So they are being able to move, they're able to connect with one another. And then on top of it is love and belonging. This is a big one. All children and adults, we all need to feel wanted and belonged and feeling that trust and stability. If we don't have that in the classroom, those children are not going to be able to learn. And then on top of it, we have to have teaching them self-esteem, self-love, self-respect, and that comes into self-regulation, right? Self-regulation is learning how to calm the body, learning how our body is feeling. So when we co-regulate, so co-regulate is supporting them through us. We're the adult, we have to co-regulate with them. So eventually when we teach them how to co-regulate, they're going to start learning how to self-regulate. So giving them, if they're hungry, making sure that we have snacks in the classroom, right? If they're tired and you see that they're tired, have them take that mini break. That is okay, right? These children are in these classrooms for 6 hours a day plus. It's a lot of learning. It's a lot of information coming at once. So we have to give them that grace. Add it into your curriculum of saying this is a break. We're just gonna sit here and meditate, or we're gonna sit here and just talk. I don't think that we talk enough to our children. We don't have that open communication. We're always like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And it's like giving them that connection is so important. Because if we don't have if we don't have all these 4 tiers, they're not going to be able to see the personal growth. They're not going to be able to see the beauty around us. They're not able to acknowledge and understand because these needs are not being met yet. Yes, Eugene.
Okay, thank you very much. Harriet would like to find out, when you have a balance, let's say 50-50 of high achievers and low achievers in one class, let's say of 10-year-olds, how do you balance their needs so that every child can learn well by the end of the term?
That is really difficult. I'm not going to lie. It's very, very hard. However, pairing, sometimes depending on the children, right? We pair them with a stronger student and a student that struggles. So they can learn. So the stronger student can actually start to teach the younger student, the student that's struggling. So the student that's they're actually learning better if they can teach it to somebody else, right? And they feel that connection with somebody. So a child that's struggling, a child that's a little bit stronger can work together as a team. And that shows compassion, that shows connection, that everybody is the same, they just learn differently. And so that can help you as a teacher to not have to be constantly, being able to teach all of them, because that's really difficult. So use the leaders in the classroom as your advantage. I had children that I had I had 10 children by myself, taught like preschooler, so 3 years old. And I had a child that was a big leader. She followed the rules. She was awesome. So I used that as my advantage. I didn't have a co-teacher. So I would use her as the supporting lead. And she helped me so much. And she felt empowered, right? She felt that she needed that in her personality. And so I was able to use her strengths to my abilities to help me through that process of having 10 kids underneath 3. Yes, Eugene. Oh, you need a mute. Yeah.
That was actually an applause. I mean, how you handled the whole situation.
It's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy, and it's difficult, and people don't get it unless you're a teacher, right? And they're like, well, why aren't you teaching my children? And it's like, it's really hard. I have 50 kids that aren't, don't learn the same. But if we are able to bring in the tactile a little bit more, that's going to help actually all the children, because everybody can learn beneficial with tactile and hands-on and in doing groups. Can you mute? I don't have that option. Thank you. Being able to figure that out. It's, look towards your leaders in the classroom and teach them how to be leaders. And that's how we can start to do that when they're young, right? We know preschoolers, kindergarten kids, we know what kids are leaders. They just might not know how to be a leader at that point, right? Sometimes they come off as bossy, sometimes they have followers. We all know those kids, right? We have those kids that have those puppy dogs, right? And they always listen to them, right? And so use that as preschool teachers, teach those children that have those kids that follow them, teach them how to be leaders at that time. We can start to teach them, we can start to give them that power, of this is how you be a leader. So when they turn 10 years old, they know how to be that leader and support children that are, struggling. And that helps everybody, right? So thank you so much for that question. And if you need any more, I know it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy. It's thinking outside the box and how to support all the children. That's probably one of the hardest jobs. We have a hard job, really hard job. And modifying, that's the other thing I always want to tell people. If you have high achievers, great, make it harder for them. And then when you have children that are, base level or young or under, modify it. Don't give them the same curriculum that you're going to give the children that are able to accomplish that, right? Modify. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. It's just the way that they can learn, and that's okay. They're still getting the same information, just modifying it. So teaching skills, the lack of skills, and finding out their strengths. So one way that we can start to really observe our children and start to see how do they learn, what behaviors are happening in the classroom, who the children are, is observing. Taking that time, which I know is extremely hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but taking that time to observe and then finding the skills that they lack or their strengths, teaching those skills, role model and support those skills, and then meeting the needs of the children, which we just talked about how we can meet them, right? In the Maslow's hierarchy of need. Use love, patience, and time, always. And then we have to start to repeat that process. And then always use teamwork. Use your coworkers, use me as somebody that you need support with. I'm always here. I haven't been much on social media lately. I have a lot of big life events that are happening, that has happened and throughout the year. But if you scroll through my Facebook or my Instagram, it gives you tons of information to support, what you guys need to find. So, but yeah, this is just a nice visual of just to support you guys. And then how we start to connect with children is, where do they find love and how they connect, right? Children show and accept love and care differently. We show and care differently too. Without love and care, children cannot learn. So this is called love languages. So love languages is the way that they receive and give love. So touch, so positive touch. Children that are the ones that come up and give you that big hug when they first see you, or they come up and give you that big hug for a stranger. They always love holding hands or sitting in your lap, doesn't matter how old they are. They like just being next to you. Children that are love languages touch, they need 12 to 14 touches a day, which is a lot. So rubbing someone's back when they're doing work, ask permission. Do you want me to rub your back for a little bit while you're working? Okay, I'll rub your back, right? That's touch. They need that. Affirmations. Affirmation. I love, the shirt you're wearing. I love the way you wore your hair today. They like it back. They want to hear it back. They thrive on positivity of how they're doing. Gifts. I don't normally do materialistic gifts, but you found a rock that had a heart rock, and you're like, I saw this rock and this made me think of you. I found a pen and I knew that you really liked blue pens. I'm going to give you a blue pen. The curriculum that you did, I thought of you when I was making this, and now we can build, this thing out of boxes because I knew how much you like to build. Like gifts as in, not materialistic things. Acts of service is another big one. So children that like to do jobs, they love thriving on jobs. Give them as many jobs as you can. They will help, like they're helpers. They love helping. Sometimes they help too much. Sometimes you have to give them that balance of, nope, this is what the child needs right now. You don't need to help them, right? We have to teach them that because they help way too much. But that's what they love. They love giving. They love helping. And then quality of time. Quality of time is hard, especially when we have 50 children in the classroom. Quality of time is one-on-one time. So when we break up into those smaller groups, that helps them get that one-on-one time together. Giving them that small interactions together. So that's another way of connecting with children. Because I know there's some children that are really hard to connect with. They're just, we all have different personalities, and there's some children that you just don't mesh with, which is okay. We're all human. So when we can't connect with them as well, look towards this. Look towards how they show love and how they can care for others. That's going to help you connect with them more. And then this is the last slide, but always include families if you can, if they're open to it, because families are the best ones to go to, right? Because they know their children best. We may seem that we might know them better, but at the end of the day, they always do know their children best. Work as a team together, communicate with positive and negative information, right? It's called like the sandwich. You do positive, negative, positive. So we always kind of put in that if we have to say something negative, always follow up with the
it's been a very wonderful session. And before we proceed, I'd like Michael to give a few words.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Anytime I listen to you, I feel so refreshed and I want more and more. I don't know. The book I'm having here, writing my nugget in, is full. So much wisdom and so much things to practice. I'm so happy for this wonderful moment, and I'm very glad you made it to this event. And I have some few things to say. Out of all the things that you were saying, I took down 8 nuggets that I wish I want to say it again for teachers to still have a second look at it. One thing that I'm so happy to hear from you is that you said, provide talk breaks to help with processing. Wow, that's so deep. Provide talk break. Sometimes we teachers as facilitators take over the talking. We talk and talk and talk and talk. But now I know and understand why we must provide that talk break with the processing. The learners must have that processing moment. And I'm so happy to hear that. The next one, you said the movement makes connections in the brain to calm students, like the tape work. I'm doing the tape work. I'm going to talk to teachers to start with the tape work, because we have so many children who are so hyperactive that I'm sure when we bring in the movement, it will really, really help them a lot. Then the next thing here is document every event. One thing that I know most teachers don't do, we don't keep records of events. And you said it here, we should document every event. And that is something I really, really want to try it myself as a teacher. The next one, you said, no one can learn unless they feel safe and wanted. So the love language must be more. And I'm very happy you said that also. The next thing you said, use student strength to your advantage. Wow. Use student strength to your advantage. I think I have experience back at the classroom. There was this girl who commands so much power. When you give her leadership role as a class prefect, the kind of superiority and the kind of power she, exerts in a classroom, even teachers even feel that kind of fear. So we have to use that energy, that vitality to our advantage as a teacher. And I like the way you said you let kids run to you up and down. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. The next thing is teamwork. And I'm very happy you said teamwork. You talked about affirmations. And the last thing that I'm telling teachers is a positive communication at home. We must communicate. But you said something again. You said positive, 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 negative. But sometimes we hear teachers saying negative, 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 then one positive. So let's focus more on the positive aspect of their lives. Let's focus more on what they can do. Let's channel that energy to something positive. And I'm sure everyone will come out successful. I'm so happy for this moment. I'm so happy.
Thank you.
And I know that every teacher here is going home with something big, because I'm going home with something so big. Thank you so much for your time. Let me hand over to Mr. Eugene.
Thank you. Yeah, everybody has lacking skills, right? We have to teach those skills and meet those needs. So even if it's a negative, there's always positives to that. So it's the way we word it. Absolutely. Thank you.
We have messages in the chat room. Many of the participants are showing their love to you. Please, if you really learned something from today's session, do pass by and visit her social media handles and say something positive about today's session. It's been revealing and it's been a very wonderful session. Michelle, thank you very, very much for having some time with us. This is a quality time you will not miss for anything. So a few mentions, Mr. Kwartin Owusu, thank you. I wish you could say a few words. Mr. Kwartin, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Yes.
So,
Mr. Kwartin, can you hear me? Okay, so thank you all very much.
Hello, Mr. Usuapia, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So what are your thoughts? It's been a while.
Yeah, I think this session has been very interesting. While she was going through the scripts, I just remembered concepts like universal design for learning. research that actually everybody in the classroom achieves a level of success, no matter the background. So once we have children of different backgrounds, different learning styles, different abilities, definitely this lesson is very good for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kwarteng. It's been nice. Okay, so from Hartwell, he says such an insightful session. Thank you so much, Michelle. From Isaac Apia, very educative. God bless you. Harriet says, thank you so much. So insightful. Talk break movement, using students to help you, keeping records and loving them are also on point. Thank you so much and God bless you. Framefield says quality time spent indeed. We thank you all for your time. So I'm the Director of Development of One Seed. That's Mr. Ima, right? I think he's also here with us. So thank you all very much for passing through and we can't wait. And Michelle, on behalf of everyone, congratulations
Thank you.
on your wedding. And we hope it's the beginning of something great.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited for it. Very, very excited for it. Do you mind if we take a picture? I'm just gonna have this. And do you mind if we take a picture?
Oh, sure, yes. Okay. So please, if we can all switch on our cameras.
Yeah, if you want to show your face, you don't have to. I just would love just to take a picture so we can share this moment together.
Yes, yes.
So.
Valentine, thank you for passing through. You're always with us. So if you could please switch on your cameras, if it's possible, so that Michelle can take a picture of us.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get everybody in it, but let's see. Oh, there we go. I got some more people in it. There we go.
Yeah, so it would be better if you stop sharing your document, yeah, so that you can have the full screen.
Yeah, we can see everything, right?
Okay, yeah. Wow, good to see some beautiful and handsome faces.
Thank you. Love it. So, yeah, please, again, I can show up my stuff again that you can see. This is my social media. Again, please don't feel, please follow and ask me any questions. Again, I'm not really on it as much. I'm going to try to get back on it in a little bit. But if you scroll down, I have tons of information. Also, if you're on Facebook, I have tons of, it kind of mimics what I have on my Instagram. Again, please, if you guys have, people are rewatching this presentation, please always contact me if you have any questions or concerns. That's what I'm here for. I love supporting teachers. I love supporting families and, of course, children. So please don't hesitate to reach out for anything. No question is silly. So thank you. Thank you again for having me on here. It's been actually a year since last time we did it, which is just so cool. And I just love doing this and I really appreciate it. So thank you again for taking the time out of your Saturday. I know we went a little bit over, but I will also be sending certificates for you guys. I'll send those and so you can pass them out, whoever does it. So you guys can get credit.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle.
So, thank you, guys.
And thank you, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.